Some of the earliest adopters of Stringman have had a chance to install and run their robots, and that means I've had a bunch of awesome feedback. And by feedback, I mean the robot broke. What happens when the first few customers get their hands on your product and try it out? All kinds of crazy stuff. In this video, I'll show you what I've learned and what I've fixed. Before that, I just want to quickly announce that I'll be exhibiting Stringman at Teardown 2026 in Portland, Oregon from July 24th to 26th. Tickets are available at the link in the description. I started Newfangled Robotics in January 2026 to make a cable robot to do a chore many of us are tired of doing, picking up clutter. And the fact that it looks like a crane game is all to save cost by having fewer motors and no battery. The cheaper I can make it, the more adoption it can theoretically have. While it has potential, I'm still a ways off from it being a turnkey cleanup appliance. But several customers bought one and installed it in their rooms or workshops. I owe an enormous thanks to those people because they're both funding this enterprise and providing the one signal I need to make a viable product. Does it work for them? Now, of course, I didn't just ship these out without ever installing them somewhere other than my bedroom. I basically asked my friends and neighbors if I can come over to their house and install a crane robot on their ceiling to test out its calibration and install process. And when it goes well, which is most of the time nowadays, I get to record examples for the dataset I'm building and fine-tune cool models like Pi 05 and JEPA. And when it doesn't, I get to find out what's wrong with the system and fix it. Software bugs, missing screws, wives vetoing it because they don't like how it looks, computer vision failures, Wi-Fi problems, you name it, it's probably come up. I've been optimizing Stringman's controller to run on smaller computers and solving calibration in rooms with shiny floors. Everything I find in my test installs usually gets fixed that same evening. So when the first real customers got their robots up and ran calibration and it literally snapped its own wires, I was hustling to figure out how it happened and fix it. I had a few pictures and videos to go on, but it's very hard to diagnose a problem you can't get your hands on. From the video, it seems that two opposing lines pulled against each other hard enough to snap one, and unfortunately one was the power line, the cable that carries power to the gripper. This wire does have a lower breaking tension than fishing line at only 50 newtons, but there's a software-defined limit that should have relaxed all the motors if any line pulled harder than 28 newtons. Even though the motors and wires can handle more, this constant is what sets the system payload capacity at 2 kilograms. After a bit of code digging, I realized that if the component became disconnected from the host while reeling it in, it would continue to reel in and there would be nothing to send the relax signal, so I added another layer of failsafe to cover this situation.
What the hell?
However, after examining the pictures my customer sent me, it became clear that this is not how the line broke. Somehow the fishing line across from the power line came off its spool and started winding around the M4 screw at the axis of the spool. This means that it was winding on a new spool with a radius of only 2 millimeters instead of the intended 36, and it would therefore be able to exert 18 times more tension at the same torque. Since I infer the tension on a line using the torque from the motor, it never hit my limit. The fishing line pulled on the opposing power line until it reeled it out completely and broke. But why didn't the fishing line spool on the other side hit a tension limit? Well, I think it actually broke under 18 newtons because the power line reeled itself all the way out and then ripped out at the splice. The splice shouldn't have taken the weight, so I've switched to a knot to securely hold the power line in that situation, so we'll hit the software failsafe next time. Thankfully, this customer has the patience of a saint, and after sending him some spare parts, he got Stringman up and running again, and he's using it to pass objects to a robot arm in his workshop. With those things solved, I breathed a sigh of relief and sat back down to go train some models and stuff, and you can probably guess what happened next. Someone else's Stringman broke. Every home it gets installed in is different, and while I don't really have much video to show you about this next event, the verdict is that most rooms have a bed right in the middle, and people put the origin card on the bed. This raises the floor level a few feet, and the whole calibration process occurs closer to the ceiling, the danger zone, where tensions are high and ceiling fans are waiting to chop up people who forget details during testing. In this case, the solution is actually just to scale the whole calibration operation into a smaller space by using the card on the bed as an indication of how low we can go and another card on the floor to tell us where the actual floor is. This is just a sample of what came up during testing, some of the most dramatic stuff, but there have already been hundreds of other issues addressed from just 5 customers, and most of them are some kind of confusion about the instructions. One person saw a URL in the console, pasted it into a browser, and it crashed the process that was listening at that address because it was a WebSocket and not expecting an HTTP request. Another person plugged in their Anchor and the magic smoke came out of the PCB. I sent them a replacement and they fried that one too, and I thought, I need to figure out this problem. So I managed to reproduce it on my desk and come up with a solution. If you're a double E and you think that's funny, go ahead and laugh, because software engineers don't know what TVSs are. So the lesson that hit me the hardest after just selling a few was to triple check every piece of hardware that goes out the door. If the customer puts it together and it doesn't fit, you can't really push an update for that. You have to humbly ask the person who just paid you $1,000 to trim the plastic using a pocket knife and hope that they are patient and still trust you. I've only scratched the surface of the enormous task of making a valuable consumer robot, and there's a lot I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that the more you test it, the better it works. My mom, I kid you not, always said that untested code is broken, so that means untested hardware is doubly broken. I'm going to continue my tour by taking Stringman to more homes and installing it, and each room has different furniture and lighting and ceiling and network conditions, and all this variety strengthens the design. So as the low-level problems are smoothed out more and more frequently, those new deployments can be a source of training data for clutter pickup models. After all, that is the part I want to show you, and you can probably guess why you're not really seeing it yet. I'm collecting more training data in each new room, and I'm up to about 800 episodes at this point. I solve a couple of ancillary problems every now and then, like lowering latency or making data management tools. And building this data set will primarily let me fine-tune existing foundation models on the specific action space of Stringman. Nearly all models out there are targeted at 7-jointed arms in motor angle space. No matter what skills they have in those domains, the challenge for Stringman will be cross-embodiment fine-tuning without unlearning all those original skills. I'm no ML researcher, but I kind of have a hunch that end effector velocity space will be far more robust to cross-embodiment training, and it will become kind of a universal common language of robot models. If you want to try out this robot and support this project, I would be thrilled to work with you. I have 2 more assembled Stringman robots available for sale, and after that I'm going to have to switch to a pre-order model. The reason being that each one of these contains 3 Raspberry Pi 02Ws, and the demand for those completely outstrips the supply. And it sounds like they have about a 3 or 4 month lead time. I'm also going to be at OpenSauce this year. I wasn't approved to exhibit, but I will be attending as a guest, so if you want to meet up, just get in touch. I'll see you next time.